Hi guys, so I'm going to put this video out simply because there's been a couple of things that's bothering me. Three things actually. I just thought the third one. Russia invasion stuff, absolute fabricating nonsense. Um, Russia's got no interest. If it was so great, it would already crash through Ukraine already. So that's off the table with me. Not yet. I don't even want to entertain it. Um, Lack of armed forces in the UK. Of course there is. Of course there is. They've been pushing woke agendas. They've been forcing out the white males. They've been destroying it with DEI and a complete dislike of the people that normally form it up. The military is normally formed with white males from poor backgrounds, whether people like it or not. Historically, it's always been true. It's the guys from Wales, Scotland, Ireland, environments where they have high drug counts, high crime, poor environments, and the military is the escapism. It's the way to get out of it. That's always been there, and they stole that from them. And now they're going to sit there and go, we need more recruits. Yeah, but other communities don't want to go in there. See, the weird thing is, I don't know what it is, why people think demographics don't function as groups and can be read quite easily. See, if you look at the way Chinese enterprise works, I've never seen anybody that's Chinese in the military, the British military. I've never seen Gurkhas, lots and lots of Gurkhas when we're out in Hong Kong, but never Chinese. Nor British Indian or British Pakistani. Black guys, yeah, seen a few black guys. I mean, it was quite funny. One of the guys that was in my dad's unit, he was just ridiculous on sports. He was doing, I think he did 13 events in one day, like back to back. This is like for the joint forces stuff. Competing in contests against Army, Navy, RAF, and he's just got all these medals because he's won nearly everything. But like he's saying, he was coming off the long jump and then straight into the 100 meters, then out the 100 meters into the 3,000. It's completely knackered, but he was winning most of them. So it may be stereotypical that he was a black guy, but do you know what? I thought he was fantastic because he did everything. He was also on the basketball team and other sports because I used to train with him on the basketball. Um, but the point is, there's nothing wrong with being good at something. Just because you fit a stereotype doesn't downgrade you. It's the same as Flipper was another guy, one of my dad's units. He was an Olympic swimmer, and he was a white guy. Yeah, stereotypical. He's a white guy. You swap the two, they ain't going to perform. They have natural abilities. They're way above everybody else's standards, and it may be genetics, it may be their luck of the draw, but they were very very good at what they did. Um, I've gone completely off tangent now, but the point being is, military forces are normally made up with people from poorer backgrounds because the pace. I was going to say a bad word, but not very great. It's escapism. It's to get you out of that little coal mining village where they stopped mining coal 20 years ago, and the biggest industry in the area is the drug dealer. It's to move you away from that and get you out of it. And the forces decided to go DEI and woke. They stopped a lot of people being able to access it. It's a bit like York Police. I don't know if you've seen the thing with York Police where they were withholding white applicants because if you're a DEI hire, you jump ahead and get the job, and they were going, well, we'll just hold you back in the list, yeah, in case you can't fill the gaps. My university course, 82% is being female people with learning difficulties, and there was something else. So 8% of it is white males. 82% of it is everybody else. Well, yeah, white males. Yeah, but why are we splitting things out? Because let's face it, if we're a white majority nation, shouldn't have been, say, 80% white, with 40% female, 40% male, and then 20% made up of others, which would sort of fit demographically, I would assume. No, because we hate all you people. Equity is our strength. Equity is why we're failing. Equity, for me, is racism. It's pure racism. It's racism in its worst form. It's victimising people with better abilities. It actually undermines anybody that is actually an achiever as well, because you're talking about somebody not getting a job because of their skin colour, or their male, or their sexual orientation, or whatever. Maybe even religion. They never talk about that one, do they? Whether people are actually not allowed because they have Christian beliefs or something. That's got to be in there somewhere. That's got to be a hidden gem somewhere. But anyway, so we've destroyed the armed forces because we want to create it in a equity environment. And the reason I've mentioned other demographics is because a lot of the demographics would frown upon their kids going into this industry. You hear about some of the demographics want all their kids to be doctors, etc. Going into the armed forces would be frowned upon. That's a reality. And then we get the people that do want the jobs and tell them that they're not wanted. And then we do ad campaigns that say, you're not wanted. It's been destroyed. And it links on to the misogyny bit I'm about to do. And I'll speed this video up a little bit because otherwise I'll go off on a tangent again. So the misogyny bit isn't correct either. I look at the misogyny bit, it's going to end up focused on white people because they can't argue in other groups. And yet the other groups have got more issues. But you're now being racist. I'm not being racist. It's, if you look into the research and discussions of people, I used to spend a lot of time in different communities. So I could spend time talking to people and understand where they come from. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but this stuff is so blatant, it's not like you're having to look for it. There's guys in the London area, and I think it was a Channel 4 documentary was on about this, why, because it was something about the patriarchy, I think. And there was a lot of black youth, and they're asking them about getting married and stuff, and they won't do it. And it come to the raw truth that most of them come from broken homes, in the sense they were single parent households, and they've seen how their mother and that struggled. As such, they didn't want to happen to their own kids, so they had no plans on having kids, and they weren't settling down. They had no interest. The girls wanted marriage and everything else, but these guys are like, nah. I also seen what happened with Dad, my mum was always in his pocket, blah, blah. They split up, lots of arguments around money. It was always a problematic. The father got restricted access, etc. The guys didn't want it. They could see where it's coming from. Everything was benefiting the females, but at the same time, they weren't even counting on the fact that later down the line, having a nice little council flat and stuff gets a bit droll, gets a bit boring. You suddenly realise, what the hell did I do with my life? I decided to have a kid with a guy and kept him on the hook for benefits and child allowance, and now what? Or further down the line, you become successful, and then the guy's given up a lot of it, so they get to keep most of it. They're females. So you go, oh, Matt, that's a bit racist, that's a bit sexist, and that's what the guys were saying. These are like teenagers between 17 and 23 that were talking about this, not me. That's their views on the world, and I would go, yeah, you're right. Well, the statistics are showing you're right. Completely agree. Then you got other people with a different religious viewpoint, that this would clash with things like the burqa. Because how are you going to discuss the burqa and women's rights unless you're going to completely avoid it? Which only leaves blaming the white guys. They're already bashed by everybody, call them slave masters and God knows what these days. They're already being dragged down on education and delusional environments that are trying to erode everything that they are as a human being, as an identity, as a nation. Leave them alone. My view on, it's like Starmer targeting, Andrew Tate. I've got my face like that. The reason I talk about this is I look at Starmer, Trudeau, the old France, that Australian Prime Minister recently after what happened on Bondi Beach, Macron. They're not even beaters. They're somewhere down like D's and E's. They're not leaders. They're weak. They're controlled. They're agenda driven, but their agenda doesn't match anything of masculinity in any form. It's very twisted and dark. Masculinity is not bad. It's a balance. It's a balance. Because men need masculinity. They may not, because they'll do as they're told. But you cannot destroy it. You're going to get rebellions. Your kids rebel naturally. Kids need morals, guidance, ethics, responsibilities, beliefs, and something to trust in and someone to trust. Because you got Keir complaining about Andrew Tate, you're just told other people, I've never looked at Andrew Tate. Keir Starmer, that's the guy that said adolescence was a documentary, that idiot. Oh, it must be good if he's saying don't do it. And they'll go and look at it. So I don't think Andrew Tate's a twat from a persona perspective. I don't hate him though. I don't think he's doing any harm. I think if you think people's ability to think should be removed, then you're the problem. I look at Andrew Tate in several lanes. The stuff around his believed adult industry links that may have made him his money, I look at it, well, they've yet to jail him for committing a crime, which tells me he may have links to an industry where he's made a lot of money, he hasn't broken the law, and is ethically, morally misaligned with many people. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. It means he's not aligned with what your morals, ethics, and everything is. So I part that. None of my business. The Hustler Club or whatever it is he does. It's not a new system. Other people have tried that stuff. That is like the one of the basic Ponzi schemes on the internet for years, where people, I'll teach you how to get rich, all that stuff. That's been around for a long time. Lots of people tried it. It's one of those ones where go, buy my ebook and I'll teach you how to do it. And they'll teach you this sort of crap and then you go and do it. And then the whole thing's a Ponzi scheme. But at the same time, I agree and disagree. I think it's overpriced garbage. But at the same time, I don't disagree in the fact if you've got no direction, you need some direction. So if you join a Hustler Academy, lose money because you don't get much out of it, but at the same time, learn by your mistakes and maybe got some information out of it, you're halfway there. That's life. Secondly, I've got people that have proven it's actually worked, because some of my son's friends actually do the Hustler Academy stuff, because I do ask them like that. But like one of them, what he's done is he goes on Vinted and eBay and he finds stuff for sale on eBay, steals their photos, advertises it on Vinted for a higher price, and when it sells on Vinted, he then orders it from eBay and then gets it delivered to the address on Vinted, and he makes a bit of money that way. These are 15-year-old kids. Other classmates of my son have gone down the route of the fitness and looking after themselves. hence they're 15 and look about 18, and they're all well built because they do the gym every day. They've got the discipline that comes as part and parcel of this stuff. They're not video gamers. They're not sitting around doing bugger all day. They're actually focused on their health. And in the same way, they don't want to work for anybody else. They've got the drive to do something else. Those things are important to teenage boys because that's what makes the man. Manners maketh the man. Because they're structuring themselves. They don't hate women. In fact, the girls in their groups, nice girls, but if the boys did something bad, their dads would slap them. And their dads of the boys would probably get slap them as well. Because quite simply, we have a lot of respect for women. We're in an environment that is multicultural as well, so it's not like the nonsense. But when I say multicultural, the guys are Polish, Romanian, Russian, Ukrainian, and obviously British, and some others. But they function as normal teenagers, but have got layers of trying to improve themselves as well. Andrew Tate may have a lot of things wrong with him, but he's filling a void where there's a lot of areas that people are not doing. They've dismantled that. Over since probably about 2010, they've eroded the media groups. They've eroded role models. They've destroyed anything of value to boys. They've created this mess. And they've got the audacity to sit there and say, well, male misogyny. No, get stuffed. Get stuffed. It's not male misogyny. Now, the crime and stuff's going up through the roof, and they're pretending it's not. But I'm going to give you something that will sort of make things make sense. So, if you take very dark criminal types in the UK, so let's just say Fred and Rosemary West, Gary Glitter, Harold Shipman, what else could we got? Rolf Harris. Let's just leave it at that. But you get the idea. Bad people. Moira Hindley, there's another one, just throw it. So this screen is basically, let's just call that's the UK population. Those bad people are like that. Probably even like that, nearly. But then you start getting in your burglars, your drug dealers, your petty criminals, etc. So maybe you've got something like that in total, yeah? So that's your crime. And I'm doing it in a visual way because I don't think the stats will make aren't relevant in this scenario. So the sexual crimes have gone through the roof, but they're not dealing with what the root causes are. It's a bit like drug abuse is a big problem in the UK, but how many activities have you seen in the media dealing with anything to do with drug crime? Virtually nothing. They ignore it, pretend it's not happening. The misogyny is exactly the same, because they're going to make it a school problem when it's not a school problem. They're going to make it a white demographic problem when it's not a white demographic problem. Not in the way they're trying to make it. It's just that they can target them because there's very little defence for them. So we in the UK are currently importing around 1 million people a year, allegedly. I have to say allegedly because, quite simply, nobody really knows what the stats are. So inside a high trust environment, which is what the UK used to be, it's like that, right? The crime is like that. And the reason it may be like that is because of the drugs that they don't seem to deal with. But if you're importing 1 million people, with a lot of them having not been vetted, a lot of them have destroyed documentation, a lot of people being on the run, a lot of them are not doctors, a lot of them are not engineers, a lot of them are not surgeons, but a lot of them are low value, low intelligence, may have committed crimes, escaped war zones, been part of the war zones and fleeing the countries, and they're all undocumented. What do you think happens to the crime rate? It's here. Was here. And it doesn't matter if we increased 1 million a year. Let's just say we've had an extra 3 million people. The crime rate may be like that. Because it's no longer a high trust society. You've eroded it. So the crime goes up. But do you turn around and target where the crimes are coming from and the people committing them? Or do you target the school kids that have got nothing to do with it and won't be connected to it for at least a decade? Because they're not even in that system yet, are they? They're not the ones committing the crimes. They're unlikely to, because they're too bloody young for a start. So the reality is they've increased the problem and still ignoring it. A bit like the drug addicts. A bit like the drug... Well, not just the drug addicts, the drug dealing, the importation of drugs, and then the human trafficking, which is out of control. It's bad. It's a lot worse than people think it is. But they're all ignored because we're now focused on male misogyny, which is predominantly a white problem. And we need more people in the forces, but the forces went woke, which means if you joined up, you're probably going to be held at a low rank for a longer period of time so they can put people that fit DEI above you. So you're very likely to have no respect for them and want to buy yourself out the armed forces, because the problem you've got in a business, you may dislike them and find them completely incompetent and not really that much of a problem, because quite simply, yeah, they're overpaid, don't know what they're doing, but you have one meeting a week and you just keep your head down and keep out of the way. In a military environment, in a conflict zone, your life's in their hands. That's the reality. And you will not follow that person because you do not trust them. They're already proven that they're not what they're supposed to be, because you'll instantly go, DEI hire, DEI hire. US is already going through restructuring its forces because of what's been done to it. And before somebody says, well, Matt, you're racist, I'm not racist. It's not to do with race. It's to do with you need people that are the best of their ability. Like I said before, two of my dad's friends, white swimmer, flipper, fantastic. The other guy, I forgot his name now because I haven't spoke to him for probably 30 years. But he was great at every athletic sport on the planet. Him being black, I didn't say, oh, it's because he's black or anything like that. It's literally, he was just fantastic at sports. But got two people, I don't separate them in the fact that their colour makes a difference. They're both excellent. The same as the guy who taught me judo was an Olympic champion, a white guy. But you're saying the white and black. No, that's the way they portray everything. This is what I'm saying. They try to make everything about colour, because then you mention it and they go, well, look, he's separating everything by colour. Well, because the conversation by nature is being diverted down that route to cause a defence mechanism that then separates the two to say, look, I've got excellence from all sides, but my only interest is the excellence. Not everybody gets a badge. In conflict zones, as a surgeon, as a pilot, I want people to make it, let's get home safely. I want the best of everything. I don't want second rate. I don't want third rate. I don't want people that are hired because their uncle is the chief or whatever. Because I've experienced that already. Nepotism and that. I've experienced it. It's vile. We want the best. And at the moment, they've eroded it all. So, Andrew Tate, not interested. The misogyny stuff, be perfectly honest, it's actually driven me to finish the book I was writing on for teenage boys, because I think guys do need a direction, but also I'm recognising I need to write more, because there's bits in there I hadn't put in there because I was thinking about teenagers from a psychological point of view and the way society's trying to displace them. And I need to put some business stuff in there. I hadn't thought about doing that, but when I was listening to my son talking about his friends doing stuff, and I thought, I've missed that. I missed that myself, you see. That's me. I admit I'm wrong. A lot of these people can't. A lot of these people can't. I like this misogyny stuff. If you ask me, Matt, well, how would you fix it straight away? Give me something you do in a year that would change a lot of the environment for a lot of these kids. Okay. First thing is, I'd start boxing clubs, martial arts clubs that are tied in with the schools. They're after school activities, they're free, and there'd be a second class for kids that have already finished school to get them involved and try and give them some direction and discipline in their lives. I then look at how many kids have got low or no education and try and work out how we fix that. So I'm not arrogant enough to assume I have all the answers, but I would assume someone want to go down the route of computers, someone want to think they're going to be the next big rap star, which I don't agree with, but you can't move everything. You can't move mountains in a day. So people want to be a rap star. You may actually want to be teaching them how to be a sound engineer. You maybe want to try and teach them other ways of creating a living in that industry. Could be DJing at the local pubs and whatever. Creating an environment to actually help them steer into a way of moving forward. And then you've got other stuff like the military and things, which I would not be comfortable putting anybody into the military at this moment in time, because it locks you in. It's a contract. And I look at the big risk picture, that what concerns me is that are they trying to drive the whites into it to get them into a conflict, to put them into the grind, to get rid of them? Sounds a bit bizarre, but that's what the Crusades were about. When you have too many trained people or people that can actually become a threat, you get rid of them. So my view on that is don't. Quite simply, don't. Do something else. If you have to go and study overseas until this bloody government's gone, go and do something else. Stay away from it. I think it's too high risk to you guys. And as a person that's very pro-military, because born and bred, I wouldn't serve for this country at the minute, because it's not our country. There's too many moving parts that are working against us, and you can't fix that from its current environment by being inside it. You've got to let things unravel. So that's my view anyway. Don't have to agree with me, but I just want to share that today. And this is the 5th time I've done this video, because I've had to tone it down a little bit on multiple occasions. But I know it's a bit doom and gloom before Christmas, but guys, the fact that they're getting to these core arguments is telling you they've got a massive problem. They're out of control. They can't control things. They're trying to deflect it away from real problems, which means things are precarious. Because it doesn't even matter that they try and do this stuff. It's not going to resolve it. But I get the feeling Starmer's going to be gone very soon anyway. And this is why this all becomes just deflection. Try and move away from the actual real issues and drag you into, oh, look over here. Which, for me, I think start of next year he's gone. Anyway, guys, take it easy. Enjoy the weekend.